Hi friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Luna for those of you who don't know me, and today I want to talk about some spiritual practices that I've been doing during a harder point in my life and as I have been dealing with the loss of a loved one and kind of how I've, I guess approached healing and comfort through this time through my spiritual practice. So, I wasn't gonna talk about this on my channel because it didn't feel relevant and it's just kind of a hard time, but then I was thinking like I kind of like being open online because I enjoy looking back at old videos and seeing where I was in my life, and I kind of don't want to forget these things, although it's been a hard week and it's like a very private thing. It's like I don't want to forget that, if that makes sense. Like it just feels like, I don't know, it feels like it's something that remembering is important. And I feel like there were so many things I did for comfort and for peace that felt really, really helpful, and I really wanted to share that with anybody out there who's going through something similar, whether that is a loss of a loved one, a loss of a pet, or anything like that. I mean, I was thinking about it, and it is like not everybody falls in love and gets married. Not everybody has children, but everybody has someone they love pass away. And everybody has experienced grief, and if they haven't, they will someday. And so it is kind of like one of those things that truly connects us. I know they say like death is the one thing we all have in common. And in that, I think sitting with the grief and the loss and the sadness that comes with that connects you to your ancestors and to those who have passed on, because they too have felt that same feeling. And in that, it is a way to connect. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But yeah, I just wanted to share some things with you all that I had been doing that felt really comfortable. This isn't pagan specific. So, I mean, like whatever spiritual practice you follow, like you can totally, kind of change these practices a little bit to fit into your personal spiritual philosophy and stuff. But yes, okay, so I'm just gonna jump into it. So the very first thing I did when I got the news, after I obviously felt the feelings and went to be with my family, when I came back, I set up a little altar kind of. So if you have ever had an ancestor altar, it's kind of similar. It grew over time, but the first thing I did was I set up a blue candle because my intention was, peace and comfort for my grandpa who had passed away, and also peace and comfort for those of us who are still here. So blue was the color I went with. Whatever kind of intention you have, white is a good color candle for anything really. So, I mean, whatever you want to do, but I had set up blue for peace and comfort. So first thing I did was set up a blue candle at my altar, and you can later set up photos. Later I did add to this, it's kind of like an ancestor altar, like I said. I added like the obituary card pamphlet that you get at the celebration of life. So I did add that, and any little trinkets that I acquired afterwards, and things from his house and stuff like that. So you can add things to it, but for me at first it was just the candle. And so what I would do the first few days, the first time, obviously I channeled my energy into the candle, and obviously set the intention that this was for him. And the first thing I did was light it and then speak directly to him. There is a tradition that I've read about that resonates with me. I'm not sure where it comes from or who even said it, but I read it once and it really kind of made sense to me. And it's that if you're somebody who likes to dabble in the mediumship and divination and stuff like that, it had said essentially that you shouldn't try to contact your passed on loved ones for like 2 weeks. Now, by that, I think how I had interpreted that was like, I wouldn't personally try to sit down and like really have a full conversation and expect them to show up for like 2 weeks after their passing, because they're like working through lots of shit like on the other side. They're unpacking things, they're I mean, if they were confused when they passed, you know, they have to work through that confusion and that energy. So I've even seen some people say wait a year before trying to connect with them, but 2 weeks at least. So when I lit the candle, I did speak to my grandfather, but it wasn't like, I literally was like, I don't expect you to answer this call. It's essentially like I was trying to leave a voicemail. I was like, I'm just sending this out there for you to know. You don't need to do anything. I just want you to hear this. And so I had kind of spoke to him because his passing was very abrupt and unexpected. So like we didn't get to, say things, I guess, that like folks wanted to say. So I kind of shared some things with him and I talked, and it was very casual. And it was kind of like through the lens of like a voicemail where I was like, you don't have to respond. This is just for you to hear. Literally like universe pass this on kind of energy, like, not asking anything and not expecting him to show up or anything. Within that, I did, I think it was either the first time I talked to the candle or the second time. I had said like, hey, here are some things that really make me think of you. If you have the energy, if it feels good to send a symbol, these are the symbols I'll be looking out for. Because I think it's really good to state symbols, So like for me, one of the symbols that I wanted to choose, because you kind of want to choose something that's not like if I chose a cat, that would be kind of silly because I have 2 cats. I would see them all the time. It would be kind of like, is this a sign? Is it not? So try to choose something that's pretty specific and you're not likely to see it like every day, and you'll know like when it comes to you. So I chose cherries because I have like this very specific memory of playing this board game. And I remember I was like really, really little, and there were these little cherry pieces. And I looked it up later because I'm like, is that a real thing or am I making this up? And it's the game called Hi Ho Cherry-O. So if you're familiar, you know what I'm talking about. It's like these little cherry pieces. And us kids used to play it all the time at his house. And so for some reason, that very little cherry piece has like stuck in my brain as like childhood memories. And also just like fruit in general, because there's like silly stories. But so I was like, cherries are going to be my symbol. That's what I'm going to look out for. I'm not like a bartender. I like don't have cherries around me. Like I don't keep them on me. It would be very, very rare for me to see a cherry out in the wild. So I was like, that's my symbol. Okay. So I think I said that on like the second day. But yeah, so you can speak to the candles, say whatever you need, whatever you want to tell them, they'll hear it. I had also taken a photo of the little altar I set up, and I had sent it to my mom and my aunt, and had said like, hey, if you want to send any messages, I kind of explained to them, just like intuitively, you can speak them out loud, or you can just keep it in your head and send it energetically through the picture to the candle. I told them I'd be lighting it every day, so you can do something like that. I feel like I kind of took on the role of like spiritual psychopomp in between worlds for my family, because I am the most esoteric, witchy person in the family. Though I'm not like the most spiritual. We have very spiritual family members, but we just do things differently. So I kind of like opened up the space for them, which felt really good because I know it was really meaningful for them for me to do that. So yeah. Also with, I had that first few times just speaking to the candle and sharing my thoughts and sharing my last words that I wanted to say and messages for him, and obviously, like I said, stating kind of the symbolism I'd be looking out for. I also would sing every day the song The Parting Glass, because very Irish, very proud to be Irish. He was like, he had this big Irish flag in his house, and that whole side of my family, very, very Irish and very proud of it. And so The Parting Glass is this Irish song, and it's not specifically like a funeral song. It is kind of just about parting ways, but it's used a lot in funeral things and stuff like that. So I did sing that song every day to the candle as I lit it, just sort of as an offering and as a sort of way to say like, we miss you, we hear you, we're connected to you. And just as kind of a way to be together and to offer, again, some like companionship to him on the other side, because none of us know what is on the other side. We all have our theories, but, I'm sure, if anything, it's probably confusing at first. So I wanted to just kind of offer familiar energy and stuff, and something that would provide him comfort. So that's one thing I did too. The night I got home from visiting family, like the day of, or like the day after, so it's still very, very fresh, I took a freaking bubble bath. And so here's your friendly, like, I don't know, excuse to take a bubble bath, especially if you're experiencing like a lot of sadness. That shit is so good for your mental health. So I took a bubble bath, and I couldn't like get my mind off of things. So I pulled up, because I had that day been at the like funeral home, and we were creating the obituary and stuff. And so I found out like his date of birth, which I didn't like confidently know, and like location and stuff. So I did cast his natal chart. So if you're an astrologer person, if you like astrology, this is something that I would really recommend. So I was in the bubble bath, and I couldn't stop thinking about things. Thankfully, like the bubble bath, the lavender, the chamomile, it was relaxing my physical body. My mental mind was still going. So I was like, let me look at his natal chart and just connect in that way. And it really felt good to do that. I got to see these things about him that maybe I wouldn't have seen. I got to look at his North Node. I got to look at, like those like destiny points, and that brought me a lot of comfort, because from what I know, it seems like he was pretty aligned with his North Node. So that was good to know that, North Node is essentially what we're supposed to aim to do in our lifetime. And so to know that he was very in line with that archetype was very comforting. And it was just really cute to look at his chart and to see everything, and I think that just made me feel closer. And I think this will be very helpful if you're somebody who enjoys astrology and is familiar with natal chart reading, because it's kind of like another language. Like astrology is kind of another language, and so to be able to understand it in that way and get to know them in like, a different form of how you probably know them. I don't know how to explain it. It just was very comforting and felt really good. And so, I really recommended that. That was really fun. Another thing I did in that same bubble bath was I got a subscription to Ancestry.com. I had already used up my free trial, so I couldn't do my free trial. I don't need to be using a subscription. I'll give this hack to you guys. I'm not sure if it's every library, but I know my local library has it to where if you have a library card, you can access Ancestry.com for free in the library. You have to do it on the library computers. But that's probably what I need to be doing. In that moment, I just knew there were high school photos of him that I really wanted to see, because I had seen them in the free trial like months ago when I did it, before he had even passed. And so like, you probably don't have to do the, pay the monthly fee if your library does that thing. But I just felt like that is a sort of ancestral veneration. Like it's like saying, like, I'm not going to forget you. Like, I'm going to remember you, and I'm going to put you in this ancestry tree and write down all the stuff I know, and, look at this. And essentially I feel like sometimes I have recently felt sad because like my great-great-grandparents came from Sweden, and they, were immigrants and obviously left their entire life behind, and none of my family knows like anything. Like I'm like, what were the like, recipes they did? What kind of how was their English? Like, did they already know English? Like, what kind of family did they leave behind? And like no one knows anything. And so that for a while has been making me really sad, because I so deeply want to connect to like the cultural foods they ate, because even just me moving from my hometown of Kansas City to LA and living in a whole different state for 2 years, like there were like rotel dip was like my cultural food, right? There were like ways to connect, and I remember how lonely it felt to be away from everything you knew, and I just can't even imagine that on a international level, you know? So I feel like part of my desire in this lifetime is to write down and recount everything I can about the family members that I know and get as much information that they know about passed on family members so that I can preserve their stories and share those with future generations and stuff. And so, I just think that is such a beautiful thing to do, whether that's through Ancestry.com or if you have photos in your family, or you can ask about recipes and like cultural celebrations and things they like to do and stuff, and just really ask and learn and stuff. That just feels like such a beautiful offering of like, we're gonna keep telling your story. And so that's kind of where I was coming from with the Ancestry.com thing. So yeah, you don't have to buy the subscription like I did. You can, just ask stories and things like that, if that makes sense. So before the celebration of life, I decided to make friendship bracelets, and it sounds kind of funny, but I decided to make friendship bracelets for me, my mom, my aunt, and my grandma. And so I went to Joann's, and I knew I wanted to do like the Irish flag, but in crystals. So I went to Joann's, I got some crystals. I wanted to do more charms, like I wanted to have his initial or have his zodiac sign on there, but it got really expensive, so I wasn't able to do that. But I was able to make matching charm bracelets with the Irish flag in like crystals. So that was really beautiful, and it was for sure a labor of love because it took me like 4 hours to make 4 bracelets. I don't know why it took me so long, but it really did. But like that felt really beautiful, and so I did that the night before, or 2 nights before the celebration. And so at the celebration I gave them the bracelets, and I was like, you don't have to wear these because they're not the most artsmany craftsmanship, but if you want something to like talk to or remember him by, because I did kind of like anoint them at the candle that I had been keeping as his altar essentially. So, that kind of energy was there. So it was fun. It felt like a good thing to do. Also, one thing I did this at another family member's celebration of life that I went to like 5 years ago, maybe. It was quite a while ago. But yeah, the last celebration of life that we had, I also read this. There's a blessing from this book. This is called The Book of Blessings and Rituals. I really love this book. I got this years and years and years ago, and again, it's just like one of my favorite books ever. It has rituals and blessings for each month, and they kind of correlate to like the cycles of the seasons and stuff like that. But there's also other ceremonies and rituals like hand fasting, and like the blessing that I read, which is from the June month. I don't know why I did this. It is just the June month. And it's called Honoring the Cycles. It's this one. And it's a really beautiful blessing. And I actually have a really funny story from like the first celebration of life I read it at. So that was my grandma on my other side of the family. And so like I'm from the Midwest. And so a lot of my family is Catholic or Christian. And so I was like, this whole book, like the things in here, they're kind of made to be, as you can kind of tell from the cover, like non-denominational, non-religious. I mean, just kind of open to whatever. And that it does a successful job at that. But I mean, this ritual, like I'll put up a picture of what it says. It does like, I draw on the element of earth. I draw in the element of water. Like it's definitely like witchy. So I was a little nervous to read it because I was like, what if people, I don't know. I was just nervous because I'm like in the middle of the freaking Bible Belt and I didn't want to be disrespectful, but this is how I express my spirituality. And so, yeah, like I said, this was at my grandmother's celebration of life on the other side. And so I decided to read it. And so I'm sitting there and I'm nervous because I'm gonna have to get up and read. And also I'm really sad. And so there's a lot of emotions happening. And my brother is next to me and the preacher guy or whatever is like, you know, it doesn't matter. And keep in mind, this is like right before I am supposed to go up and read. He's like, it doesn't matter which religion you are, all right? We're all here today. It doesn't matter whether you're Baptist, Lutheran, Catholic, Presbyterian, Methodist, and just listed like only Christian religions. And so my brother turns to me and he like kind of gives me a smile as like, girl, good luck. Because yeah, at first I was like, oh, okay, like that's super open. And then the preacher guy just listed only Christian religions. And I was like, oh my God. But I got up there and I read it. And then afterwards he was like, you know what? I like that. That is right. That is right. That's exactly how it is. And I was like, did I just convert this guy? But I mean, like, it is a very, like, it's a very open, very non-denominational blessing. It's very beautiful. And like, both times I've read it, everybody loves it and feels really connected to it because it is kind of just a universal, like, we are one with the stars. So yeah, I'll read it to you guys. So again, it's from this book and it says, all that begins must end, and yet energy is neither created nor destroyed. Our souls and our spirits roam in eternity, endlessly rediscovering each other. You and I are old and young, and we have traveled many roads together. As I say goodbye to one who must leave this human form and space, I honor the cycles and the seasons. I am reminded of the preciousness of life. I draw in the element of earth to ground me as I mourn, to catch my tears and hold my feet. I draw in the element of water to move through me, as I allow these deepest feelings of sadness and loss to come forth and flow like the rivers. I draw in the element of fire to cleanse me as I release and surrender what can no longer be. I draw in the element of air to usher in winds of change. Sadness is a precursor of joy, and the cycles of life always prevail. To the earth and stars we shall all one day return. I have known you since we left the stars, and I shall recognize you again once we... Oh, I fucked up that last line. Okay. I have known you since we left the stars, and I shall recognize you when we reunite there together again. So it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's again non-religious, so it's welcoming to everybody. You know, it's beautiful, and everyone loves it. And I love it. Like, I mean, this is beautiful. This is exactly how my kind of vision of the existence and afterlife kind of is, in a sense. And like every time I read it, it's just like people are always like, oh my God, what's that from? Did you write that? And I'm like, I didn't write it. It's from this book. It's a beautiful book. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's a very nice thing. So giving that to you, if you you don't even have to, like, because I almost thought I wasn't going to read it because I was so emotional and I didn't know if I could get through it. And both times I've read it, I didn't get through it. I mean, I did get through it, but the last line, I would, like, start to cry. Which it's, like, fine, because then it's just, like, 3 more words, girl. 3 more words. Just get it out, and then you can go cry. So it's been successful in that way. But I also know that not everybody wants to get up and read. Not everybody, like, some people are, you know, a bit more camera shy, I guess. So you can also just read this to the candle. Like, if you do have an altar or a candle or a picture or something that you're directing this energy to, you don't have to get up and read it in front of everybody for it to be valid. You know, if you want to read it on your own in private to this passed on loved one, like, that's just as powerful. So don't feel like you have to get up and read it if you want to read it. And then, so after the ceremony, my mom gave me some of the flowers from the ceremony, and there was like a little crystal cross in it. And so I put that at the altar because, you know, that's not my personal religion, but a lot of my ancestors, and specifically my grandpa, are Catholic or were Catholic or a Christian. So even if there's like differences of religions, like you can put up their specific religious symbols if you feel comfortable doing that. And then I had all these beautiful flowers, so I kept them out for a while, and then as they started to, start to wilt and stuff, I first started to press them. So I've got actually up there a couple books. I'm pressing a lot of the flowers. This is the first time I've done this, so I'll let you know how it turns out. But I decided that I would make some resin jewelry with the pressed flowers. So like I have this bookmark actually that it's not resin, but it's pressed flowers. And I think this is so pretty. I think it's just two sticky clear pieces with flowers pressed in between. So I might do some of that, make some bookmarks, but I'm also like, I have a ton of flowers pressing right now. So I'm also going to make some resin jewelry. So I haven't done that yet. Letting the flowers press for like 2 weeks. So I'll get to that, but I picked some flowers. I'm pressing those. I also made some mini bundles to hang in a window and dry so that I can preserve them and use them like as decoration at the ancestor altar. I'm also going to give some to my aunt and my grandma or my mom. And then I also made some rose water because there was some roses in the bouquet. And so I made rose water for the first time, which is very simple. And so, yeah, I'm not going to use it like on my face or anything. So I don't have to worry about were there preservatives in these roses, because I'm sure they were. I am actually going to use it as like essentially how you would use like a moon water at an ancestor altar, like to cleanse or as an offering every so often. So that's what I'm using it for. So if you do want to use it in beauty, you do want to make sure that they're preservative free. But in this case, I wanted to keep the roses for my grandpa and for ancestors and stuff. So that's why I made the rose water. I'm going to use it as like a sort of offering or a cleansing water and things like that. Oh, and I also didn't even share. So like I said, I had mentioned in this sort of like meditation-y place where I was leaving the voicemail essentially at the candle, like cherries are gonna be the symbol I look for. And I'll know that, you're here when I see a cherry, but also no rush. And I was like, I'm not expecting much because I know you're still like passing and getting acclimated and stuff. I didn't realize it, but that night I went and I read tarot at an event, and my husband was bartending that night, and he made me a drink. I asked for a lemonade, and he put cherries in it. I didn't realize, and I also didn't tell him about the cherry thing until much later. I didn't realize, I saw that there were cherries, and I didn't connect it because I was just really trying to not think about anything since I was working that night. But yeah, there were like cherries in my drink, and I like days later I was like, oh my god, that was the first sign. I didn't even notice it. And like I said, this was a lemonade, so it's not something you typically would put cherries in. It was a lavender lemonade, so I was like, you wouldn't, I don't think he usually puts cherries in those, and again, he didn't know, so, and that, you could mark that up as like, well, cherries are often used in drinks, so maybe that was a coincidence, sure, you can do that. But then the next day, I read tarot at another event, and I get there, and the woman who owned the shop I was reading at had this huge cherry brooch on her dress. And I was like, what are the odds? Like, I've never seen a cherry brooch before. And, so it was just really funny. I was like, okay, I see it. So I think it's funny because I clearly missed the first symbol, and so he was like, okay, here's another one. So yeah, I thought that was really funny, and I just wanted to share that. And yeah, lastly, I just found personally so much comfort in being there for my family and being surrounded by family members, and that's part of the reason I moved back home, because family is so important. And when I was living like across the country, I would never have been able to be there as much as I was, and so looking through photos together and telling stories and finding moments to laugh, like that was so healing, because funny things still happen. And so I have a really funny family, like they're all hilarious and amazing, and so I'm glad that we were able to find moments to laugh and poke fun at each other for the silly things we did and said. And it was just so healing, I guess, to be with family. So, I mean, I can't recommend that enough. Like, it was just really good. So, yeah, that's kind of been what I did. And I just wanted to share these with you today and, share what I've been doing because I did ask on my Instagram what folks would do, in these situations. And a lot of folks said, they would make cultural food or like eat their favorite food and drink to connect to them that way. That's something I didn't do, but a lot of folks said that. So I wanted to also add that in there. So yeah, it has been crazy, but I feel like all the rituals and stuff really did bring me so much peace and really like anchored me and grounded me and allowed me to have the space to feel those feelings and to express my thoughts and express my sadness and have that support from family and show up at the celebration and like speak. Like that was obviously kind of scary but felt really good to do. And all the other things like reading his chart, doing his ancestry stuff, having a little altar, like it just brought me so much peace, and I hope that it brought him peace on the other side. And I think it brought those around me a lot of peace, like those who also were going through it. I think we all were really there for each other, and I think that was really beautiful. So yeah, I just wanted to share this to kind of document this moment in time, even though it's not like a fun one, it's not like one I want to, not typically how I'd want to show up online, but I like the internet in that we can kind of document our life because I think we forget so many moments and so many things. And like I said in the beginning, like grief is something that we all experience and it feels so isolating in the moment, but it's like everybody experiences this. And like thinking about how my grandpa lost his grandpa and felt these things, it's like, well, we're connected in that way, and I think that's kind of beautiful. So yeah, that's what I have for you today. Thanks for hanging out in this little somber little video, but I hope some of these things brought you peace. If you're going through something similar, I'm sending you so much love, and I hope that these things bring you a lot of comfort and joy. And if you're just hanging out to listen to me yap, thank you for being here. I love you and I appreciate you. And make sure to subscribe for some more of my energy. And yeah, that's what I have for you today. I love you guys so, so much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.